The moment Caroline Levitt carried her grandfather's worn chair into the Senate chamber, she didn't just make a statement. She started a movement that would remind America what real leadership looks like. It was July 30th, and Washington had never felt more divided. The oppressive heat outside paled in comparison to the political pressure reaching a slow boil inside the Capitol. When Senate Majority Leader John Thune brushed aside President Trump's urgent plea to cancel the Senate recess, he effectively halted 135 crucial nominations and left 50 key judicial seats empty. In a city built on tradition, Thune's insistence on routine procedural sessions just to block recess appointments was more than a political stunt. It was a betrayal. Inside the Situation Room, President Trump paced. The air felt thick with frustration. Caroline stood nearby, focused and collected. He stopped pacing. "He's daring me." She didn't blink. "Then we dare back, sir." Minutes later, Caroline stepped up to the podium in the Capitol press room. The cameras blinked on. The room hushed. And in that stillness, Caroline Levitt surrendered nothing. Not her composure, not her convictions, and certainly not her voice. American flags framed her like silent witnesses to what was about to unfold. She breathed in, then began. "I never imagined I'd find myself here, standing against betrayal from within my own party. But here we are." A stunned murmur rippled through the press corps. Microphones inched forward. Camera lenses zoomed tighter. "We are days away from critical government functions grinding to a halt," she continued. "And while our enemies plan, our homeland aches, and our border cries for help, Senator Thune wants a vacation." Her voice didn't waver. Her resolve pressed forward like a tide. Some reporters looked down at their notepads. Others lowered their eyes. A few wiped away tears. "President Trump trusted you, Senator Thune. He backed you. And now when he asks for help, not for himself, but for the American people, you slap his hand away." Witnesses said Thune, watching from a nearby office, went pale. Caroline paused. Silence hung heavy in the room. Then she delivered the blow that would echo far beyond these walls. "If Senator Thune is this tired of leadership, I suggest he resign and let a real patriot step in." Reporters scrambled for their phones. The moment had gone viral before she'd even left the podium. Then softer, she brought it home. "My father worked construction in New Hampshire. He didn't get fancy recesses. He got laid off when work dried up. But he provided for us because he believed in America." She lifted a folder filled with faces, names, and positions. People waiting to serve. "These 135 nominees are ready to rebuild our economy, defend our borders, and protect our children. They don't have time for recess." Her voice rose with conviction. "Every day we delay, a family suffers. Every day we wait, a judge's seat stays empty. Crime grows. Chaos grows." She lifted her chin. "What is Senator Thune doing? Convening the Senate every few days just to block appointments? No one in our history has blocked their own party's president like this. He's failing the American people." MAGA supporters at home watched transfixed. Some wept, some cheered. Fox News interrupted its regular programming. Even CNN called it a jarring, emotional moment. Back in the West Wing, press monitors flickered with her words. A call from Thune went unanswered. Caroline returned to find Trump waiting, voice calm but fierce. "I didn't come to Washington to play game," she told him. "I came to fix what's broken." Trump nodded, grateful. Then an aide rushed in. Thune accused her of public humiliation. Trump's reply was swift. "No." Thune humiliated himself when he turned his back on Americans. Alone later, Caroline trembled as she held a letter from Maria Lopez, a nominee whose brother had been lost to gang violence. Maria's plea was simple. "Act now." Caroline's eyes filled with tears. This wasn't politics. It was personal. At 5:45 p.m., Caroline strode into the Senate chamber unannounced. "Senator Thune," she said to the silent room, "you've embarrassed yourself. You've betrayed 135 public servants, 50 judicial seats, and countless American families. Cancel the recess." Thune retorted, "This is procedure." Caroline's voice rose. "Procedure doesn't feed hungry children or protect our border agents. If any of you still believe in MAGA, stop this madness." Cancel the recess. They say no one dared interrupt. 2 hours later, a tearful veteran in a MAGA cap went viral online. She's the only one speaking for us. Then came a mother's plea for her husband's confirmation. If Thune has his way, our dreams die. God bless Caroline Levitt. Caroline watched the clips in silence. Trump found her there. You did more in 6 hours than most do in 6 years, he said. At 8 p.m. Eastern Time, Caroline addressed America directly. No gavel, no Senate floor, just a woman, her story, and a nation's conscience. I wasn't born into power, she said. I was raised in a small town. I've seen families crumble and communities torn apart. Tonight, we stand at a crossroads. We have 135 patriots waiting to serve and one man blocking them. She paused, her voice thick with emotion. This isn't about parties, it's about people. She held up a widow's letter. My husband waited for confirmation. He died believing he could help fix prison reform. Now he's gone. America watched in rapt silence. Then came word of another tragedy. David Rener, a judicial nominee, had died in a car crash while rushing between two jobs, waiting for his confirmation to come through. Hope extinguished on the road home. Caroline's hand hovered over a photo of David, her eyes brimming with tears. No more delays, she whispered. Meanwhile, Thune prepared his own press conference at dusk. He blamed her emotions and called for decorum. But when it began, Caroline walked in. She rose beside his podium. What tradition says we recess while America bleeds? She asked. Thune sneered. This isn't your time. She leaned closer, her voice quiet yet unbreakable. It is, because every family, every child, every community deserves urgency over tradition. If my emotion makes me human, I own it, because I still care. Reporters gasped. Staffers applauded. Senators Josh Hawley and Marsha Blackburn joined her side. Then she did something unprecedented. She sat down, not at a desk, but on her grandfather's worn wooden chair in the center of the chamber. He'd earned his place after decades of work at a New Hampshire mill, caring only about feeding his family. She looked around the empty chamber, alone in the silence. By midnight, her solitary vigil, photos of families, letters from nominees strewn around her like a shrine, had become something sacred. Across America, people began posting photos of themselves sitting in solidarity with the hashtag #WeSitWithLevitt. At 2:15 a.m., a uniformed soldier entered the gallery, placed a folded flag near her chair, and left a note. Caroline read the stories in the dim West Wing office later, tears finally falling freely. Trump found her there and whispered, "You gave this movement soul." The next morning, under dawn's early light, she carried that chair back to the Senate gallery, her grandfather's legacy and her nation's conscience combined. Why rest when people suffer? She asked the empty chamber. Then one by one, senators began to arrive. They didn't speak. They simply stood with her. It was no longer about recess. It was about justice. It was about the American promise. Caroline Levitt, once the voice behind the podium, had become the conscience demanding action. Later that week, a group of high schoolers from rural Ohio visited the Capitol. They paused at that chair and left handmade cards decorated with glitter and stars. One said simply, "Thank you for sitting when no one else would." And somewhere in the quiet corners of America, people stood a little taller because one woman had reminded them that leadership isn't about speeches. It's about sacrifice, courage, and never letting silence win. The chair remained in the Senate gallery as a reminder. Sometimes the most powerful political statement isn't what you say, but where you choose to sit. If this moment made you pause, reflect, or even cheer, don't let it be the last. Subscribe to Hill Stories for more true political showdowns, deep investigations, and stories that remind us why truth still matters. Like the video if it moved you, drop your thoughts in the comments, and hit the bell so you're always the first to witness the next reckoning.